It's Monday, February 2nd, 2026. Trump rattles more sabers, Don Lemon is cooked, and more Jeffrey Epstein documents next on the AM Update. Apologies for the voice this morning. Hopefully we can make it through. President Trump posted over the weekend he's taking the ongoing riots, demonstrations, whatever you want to call them, around the country very seriously. He said on Truth Social, quote, "I have instructed Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem that under no circumstances are we going to participate in various poorly run Democrat cities with regards to their protests and or riots unless and until they ask us for help. We will, however, guard, and very powerfully so, any and all federal buildings that are being attacked by these highly paid lunatics, agitators, and insurrectionists. Please be aware," the president said, "that I've instructed ICE and or Border Patrol to be very forceful in this protection of federal government property." President Trump went on for another lengthy post on Truth Social, threatening to use and redeploy organizations, agencies like Department of Homeland Security and ICE, and maybe even increase their numbers in cities like Minneapolis and elsewhere that experienced ongoing riots, protests, what have you, over the weekend. So you could construe that as saying and threatening the use of force to quell some of these riots if they do threaten federal property. One of those rioters from the city's church riot a couple of weeks ago, Don Lemon, he was indeed arrested in Los Angeles on Friday morning for his role in that unconstitutional and illegal demonstration, if you want to call it that, the desecration of City's church in the Twin Cities. After he had his initial court appearance, he called a press conference where about 3 people showed up.
I will not stop now. In fact, there is no more important time than right now, this very moment, for a free and independent media that shines a light on the truth and holds those in power accountable. Again, I will not stop now. I will not stop ever.
I think you're going to be forced to stop once you're in prison. From what I've seen, the government's case against Lemon, citing a specific U.S. code, I think it's conspiracy against rights is the one that he's being pegged with, maybe even the FACE Act as well. They cite his own live stream of this event, saying that he knew what was about to happen. He is quoted in no uncertain terms on this live stream, and I'm sure you've heard clips of this as well. We featured them a couple of weeks ago when this went down. He is quoted, his own words, saying that he's going to help these people and keep this a secret. Those organizers. That is a conspiracy. You can't do that. You cannot conspire to deprive people of their rights under the Constitution, and one of those rights is freedom of assembly and freedom to worship. A 22-year-old woman who identified as a boy or in her teen years has won a $2 million decision in a landmark lawsuit against New York doctors accused of pushing a double mastectomy on her when she was a minor. Fox Varian had the life-altering surgery, the meatball surgery, when she was just 16 years old, getting approved from a psychologist and a surgeon, both of whom a jury found liable, again, this is in New York, of medical malpractice on January 30th. Varian, now 22 and considered a detransitioner, was awarded $1.6 million for past and future pain and suffering and an additional $400,000 for future medical expenses in the first detransitioner malpractice lawsuit in the nation to go to trial and win. That is a massive, massive story. And the judge himself in this case pointed out that there are no fewer than 28 of these cases currently playing out around the country. Definitely something to keep an eye on. It is indeed a landmark case that got very little press until it actually went down over the weekend. Let's go to this. It's time to wake up. It is time to wake up. There are a few things that happened over the weekend, a few sound bites that I want to share with you, a big story that I want to share with you that underscore just what the stakes are coming up in a little under now 8 months. 9 months, whatever it is, in the midterm elections. I usually do not feature predominantly Democrats saying just ridiculous things over and over and over again. I kind of splice them in here and there. Typically when we're going to break in this first segment, hey, check out this stupid thing that a Democrat said. this ridiculous thing that a Democrat said. But this is not the main thrust of this show, normally. Today, though, I am going to feature more clips, more stories of ridiculous and bat crap crazy things that Democrats say believe at all. Because there's a very important lesson here that I want to try to impart. And that lesson is that it's time to wake up. Here's Boston Mayor Michelle Wu on the issue of immigration over the weekend.
Every person, every human being has the legal right to come to the United States and seek asylum.
Every single human being, all 8 billion of them, or whatever the number is of the global population. Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, the mayor of a prominent city in the United States, prominent today, prominent in its history, saying that 8 billion people has the legal right to come to the United States and seek shelter. That's what she believes. And then there's this. Congresswoman Laura Gillen had this to say about Haitians over the weekend.
Haiti is basically a death sentence, and that's why we are asking the administration to open up their hearts and to extend this TPS. Sending these people back to Haiti is basically a death sentence, and that's why we are asking the administration to open up their hearts and to extend this TPS.
Laura Gillen, a congresswoman, says that sending Haitians back to Haiti, she's a congresswoman from New York State, sending Haitians back to Haiti is a, quote, death sentence. Well, then what does it mean when you send Haitians from Haiti to the United States? Doesn't that mean that it's a death sentence for this country? If sending them back to their own people is a death sentence for them, doesn't it mean that sending them to us means it's a death sentence for us? And Michelle Wu, the Boston mayor, believes that every single Haitian has the legal right to come to this country. So there's two examples over the weekend. How about this? A bat crap crazy judge in a federal district in Texas issued, I don't want to call it a ruling because it's not really that. He issued a blog post saying that an illegal alien father and his son, you may remember the son, he was maybe 8 years old, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, young son photographed during an ICE raid. It's the one that was the impetus for the whole ICE is kidnapping 5-year-olds hoax. A federal judge in Texas, quote unquote, ruled, blog posted, citing no legal precedent whatsoever, none, and I'm not making this up, citing no legal precedent, no logic whatsoever, just ruled that this father and son, illegal alien father, who abandoned his son, by the way, if I remember the story correctly, they have to stay in the United States. Again, this judge, and let me find his name here. This is federal judge Fred Beery, I think a George W. Bush appointment. He issued this over the weekend. But here's how he ended the ruling, quote unquote, ruling. Quote, with a judicial finger to the constitutional dike, it is so ordered, signed this 31st day of February, 2026. He then posted the photograph of that young child and cited 2 Bible verses. That is supposedly an official ruling from a federal judge. Never seen anything like that before. It's just a blog post. It's not a real ruling, but in our system, we have to treat these judges like the role players that they think they are. Just incredible. Now, why do I say we need to wake up? Why do I say we need to wake up? Because of what happened in Texas over the weekend. Democrats notched another special election upset on Saturday after Taylor Remmett won a Texas state Senate race in a district long dominated by Republicans. Remmett is a former labor union leader and Air Force veteran. He defeated Republican Lee Wambsgans, a conservative activist in the Fort Worth area district. He won by 14 points in a district dominated by Republicans for decades. 14-point victory. He was outspent by a factor of, I think, at least like 4-1, if I read that correctly. But he was out. He had basically no money compared to what the Republicans spent in that district and still won by 14 points. It's time to wake up. Democrats have flipped 8 state legislative seats in special elections during the 25-26 cycle. Texas Senate District 9, Mississippi Senate District 2, Mississippi Senate District 45, Iowa Senate District 1, Iowa Senate District 35, Pennsylvania Senate District 36, Georgia House District 121, Mississippi House District 22. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those 8 I would describe as deep red. Now, I'm not familiar when it comes to those southern districts or the Pennsylvania district, whether or not they are typically deep red, but those are flips. Those are flips. This portends wickedness to come. One final example of this. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, seemingly the epicenter of evil on today's program, had this to say about Medicaid and the state of New York.
So all these programs, whether it's the nutrition programs, half of my budget, or a large percent of my budget is Medicaid. Half of New Yorkers are on Medicaid.
And those are lower income New Yorkers. Do you believe that the wealthy are paying their fair share in New York State?
Well, these are seniors also.
Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, says, quote, half of New Yorkers are on Medicaid. So let me sum this up as well as I possibly can. Democrat Boston Mayor Michelle Wu believes that every single human being, all 8 billion of them, have a right legally to enter the United States and seek shelter. A New York congresswoman says that if you send Haitians back to Haiti, it's a death sentence for them, intimating that sending Haitians to the United States, which Michelle Wu believes is a legal right, that means it's a death sentence for our country. And Kathy Hochul says, oh, by the way, once you get here to our country, half of you, probably all of you, but half of you can go on Medicaid on the taxpayer's dime. Oh, and the opposition to this ideology just got beaten in a district they hadn't gotten beaten in for decades by 14 points. Time to wake up. More in a moment. All right. That was a little rough at the end of that last segment. How about a palate cleanser?
Chat, peep this bussin' clay dish from the 16th century, made in the workshop of an Italian Rizzler named Orazio Pompei.
This is Allison Lux, who's worked at the National Gallery of Arts for 47 years. She agreed to learn Gen Z slang and make videos about different artifacts at the National Gallery of Art for TikTok. Listen to this.
Money-maxing Sigmas would pull out Mayalika plates like this at dinner parties just to flex their aura points. Look how Bro glazed it. He went goblin mode with all these colors. High-key tough materials to work with. But he ate, and that glow still slaps 500 years later. Chat, would you bring this dish to the function, or is it chopped? Either way, Girly Pop is the moment, and she's living rent-free in our heads and in the National Gallery of Art.
She's describing an ornate plate, a very old one at that. I laughed out loud. Look how Bro glazed it. Describing this fine art from antiquity in Gen Z slang terms, and being an older woman while doing so, that is a recipe for comedic gold. Well, it's not news when Golden State Warriors basketball coach Steve Kerr says something bat crap crazy. It is news, however, when he apologizes.
Alejandro from Outkick.com. So going back to the situation in Minneapolis and some of the comments that were made there. So I know you had mentioned that, ICE isn't rooting out violent criminals, but is instead taking 5-year-olds. Since we know that ICE has indeed arrested violent criminals, and perhaps some of those statements could be seen as misinformed or possibly divisive, what would you say to that?
You're right. I definitely misspoke, and I knew that ICE was arresting some criminals, and I think I immediately regretted it because I knew that to be the case. But my point is that they're also arresting people and detaining citizens and people who should not be.
Steve Kerr kind of doubling down on one part of what he's said about immigration and customs enforcement. It is news when somebody like him, who is just completely mind-numbingly smooth-brained on political issues, I guess a great basketball coach, but smooth-brained when it comes to politics and totally worked over by leftist programming. He actually apologized there for saying what he said recently about ICE, because he realizes and recognizes that ICE is actually arresting criminals. Let's go back to the state of Texas, where Texas Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez, that's her real name, Speedy Gonzalez, Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez was arrested. Let's go to KSAT TV.
Judge Rosie Speedlin Gonzalez became the first openly gay judge to be elected in Bexar County. Within months of taking the bench, a complaint was made by a local defense attorney to the State Commission on Judicial Conduct about the rainbow pride flag she had in her courtroom.
It came across very much like I was being targeted and discriminated against.
And it wasn't just the rainbow pride flag that she was forced to remove.
I was also ordered to remove all rainbows from the courtroom. My mouse pad, the pen that I used, the robe where I had a sarape, colors.
Gonzalez states her disappointment is also because other judges across the state have not been required to remove flags or different color robes from their courtrooms.
Are they going to go to these judges who have an Irish flag in their courtroom or wear a camouflage robe when they want to, or, make sure that out in the rural counties there isn't a Confederate flag flying in some little JP court?
She has since made an appeal on the ruling and is awaiting to get her day in court, which can come later this year. And as she waits, she's making sure to continue to be a leading advocate for the LGBTQ plus community any way she can.
So that is a story about this Texas judge, Rosie Speedy Gonzalez, when she says she was targeted for being required to remove all pride paraphernalia from her courtroom. Now she has been arrested herself for handcuffing an attorney and locking him in the jury box. Why she did that remains to be seen, but she's gotten arrested for that now. Let's go to this major batch. Tens of thousands of documents of Epstein files were released on Friday. Now, there's a lot of fake stuff going around out there, including, I think, off the top of my head, one email that's attributed to Elon Musk that has been, from what I saw, verified to be fake. So I'm going to let people who dedicate a lot of their work to this story, I'm going to let them do the legwork on this, because I simply do not have time to go through tens of thousands of documents. I just don't. However, there is one thing that caught my eye out of this new batch of documents that I did not know even existed. Now, I knew that there was some relationship between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. That came to light, at least more so, in December. Apparently, there's an entire interview between Steve Bannon and Jeffrey Epstein. Now, it was not exactly an amicable interview. Now, I don't know what Steve Bannon was doing. I don't know why he was interviewing Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know. Apparently, this was for some sort of documentary on Jeffrey Epstein. I don't know why. Now, this would have been prior to Epstein's arrest, I believe. But anyway, here's one clip from that interview where Steve Bannon gets a little testy with Jeffrey Epstein on the issue of life.
Let's go back to human life. When do you think human life starts?
It's not these. So you see, this is the question. You're asking me to measure something again. It's the disease.
It can't be measured. You just hate making commitments.
That's why I'm not married.
I'm peeling this onion back a layer at a time. All your bullshit and happy target can't be measured like that. Is that to say measure it's a commitment. You don't even like a commitment when you answer a question.
I don't.
As they say in golf, commit to the shot.
I don't know what it means to be measured.
You do know what it means to be measured. You're one of the leading currency traders, hedge fund guys, or stock market financial wizards. You're in the high priesthood of high finance. You certainly know how to measure. That's why you're a billionaire. Any other answer besides that is total and complete bullshit, and you know it.
I know very few things.
You know things can be measured. You measure every day. You weigh and measure every day. You weigh and measure people. You weigh and measure leaders. You weigh and measure economies. You weigh and measure politics.
It's a very good.
You weigh and measure. You weigh.
Hang on.
Your whole life, in fact, is measuring.
So what you've now done is a great thing. Is you've used the word measure, a mathematic term, in the common vernacular and abused it. So I don't even recognize what it means. It's so abusive to my field.
That is so bizarre. I had no idea this existed. Apparently there's like over a dozen hours of footage, just interviews between Jeffrey Epstein and Steve Bannon. It's clear that those two were much closer than maybe even I thought, even after their relationship came to light back in December. Very weird stuff. And it's odd to hear Jeffrey Epstein. It's a lot of these emails that are coming out. Again, I don't know for sure if everything that I've read is real or fake, but there have been a lot of these documents coming out. Stuff involving Bill Gates. Stuff involving Prince Andrew. Jeffrey Epstein, the way he communicates in emails, does not scream criminal mastermind at all. And many of the people that he's communicating with, these world leaders, these titans of industry, they don't sound super smart. They don't come off as super smart or super special. It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing, to be honest. When we come back, it'll be time for Air Analysis, something completely different that's coming up next. And finally, Air Analysis, slightly acidic, mostly necessary. I come before you this morning for something completely different. A plead for you to make a change in your lifestyle. What I'm about to tell you is the secret to happiness, to good health, to mirth and cheer. What I'm about to tell you will change your life forever if you heed my advice, heed my words. What I'm about to tell you was a secret to me, a secret of my own making, because it was always accessible to me, but I never followed through on the action that I'm about to tell you. Don't make the same mistake that I did. Here's what you need to be doing. If you do not have one already, you must acquire a pellet smoker. But that's not the secret to happiness here. Once you have acquired a pellet smoker and you've learned how to operate it, here's what you now need to do. You need to go down to your local grocery store, or in my case, Costco. You need to find party wings, or you can just buy whole chicken wings by yourself and cut them yourself. Go watch a YouTube video if you need to do the cutting yourself on how to do that properly. And then here's what you need to do. Once you have acquired chicken wings, once you have acquired a pellet smoker, once you have acquired these wonderful, wonderful tools, elements, once you have acquired those wings, let them dry for at least 2 hours, preferably overnight. Once they have dried completely, you're going to want to turn your smoker on to 400 degrees. Once your smoker has reached 400 degrees, you're going to lay all of those chicken wings into some sort of basin. You're going to rub either oil or mustard all over those chicken wings. Then you're going to get the best rub that you can find, and you are going to rub that rub into those chicken wings. After you have finished with this, once your smoker gets up to 400 degrees, you're going to put those wings on the smoker for about 20 to 25 minutes. Don't be afraid if the temperature of the wings gets 185. Don't be afraid of that. After 20 to 25 minutes, you're going to flip them. Flip them for 5 to 10 minutes. If there's one side of your smoker that's hotter than the other side, you're going to have to switch sides on the racks. By the way, when I smoke wings on the smoker, I use wire racks. Once you have flipped them and or switched sides, you're going to bring these wings inside, but don't turn off the smoker quite yet. Once they have finished cooking that second time after being flipped, you're going to bring them inside. You're going to find a nice Carolina-style barbecue to rub them in, or to sauce them in, I should say. Be very generous with the sauce. Once you have made sure that every single wing has a generous helping of sauce, you're going to return them to the smoker for another 5 to 10 minutes. Once they have waited on there for another 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to pull them off, and then you're going to eat them, and you will not be able to stop eating them, and you will be happy. That's the end. Goodbye. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.